Welcome everybody. We're going to be talking more about logic today. Logic. And I know a lot of you are working on the books on this, so it's going to reinforce that a little bit with some notes of my own. 9, 13, 21. And we're going to talk a little bit about truth tables. So there's just three really basic logical operators that we worry about. There's and, there's or, and there's not. Okay? And the way that it works, and if this sounds like computer science, well, yeah, you're in a computer science class, but it's also logic and philosophy. The same principles apply in all these things. The highlight of last week, lizard people in Congress. Yeah, well, we can go over the quiz too. I also want to talk about concussions, because I said something about that, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I've been meaning to follow up on that as well. Yeah, we're going to talk about this today, and we'll talk about the other two topics I just mentioned, concussions and lizard people in Congress. I can't find anything in the rules saying a dog can't be a congressman. I'm going to allow it. All right. So, okay. So, and. So, X could be true or false, Y could be true or false. For example, X is Airbud was a golden retriever. Y was golden retrievers are allowed in Congress. Then and is if X is if it's both Airbud and golden retrievers are allowed in Congress. So this an and operation, an and command is true only if both of these are true. So we represent these things using these things called truth tables. Okay, and we sort of write out all the possibilities for truth and falseness like this. So for two variables, there's 4 possibilities. When you got X being true or false, Y being true or false, and then we write it out like this. Okay? So X and Y is true only if and only if X and Y are both true. So both sides have to be true in order for X and Y to be true. For all other cases, it is false. Okay? So if I program a computer saying if there is a person in front of me and the person is Kearney, shoot. This is an actual program that my students made. In my 4th semester class, we do a lot of projects. And so they trained a image recognition system that would watch a live video feed on my face. And so it was actually kind of funny. They got a printout of my face and they put it on a popsicle stick, and they did this to like test the system. And then there was a turret that would shoot a ping pong ball. And the ping pong ball would aim at wherever my face was and shoot it. Anybody else comes in through the front door, doesn't shoot. If there's nobody in front of it, doesn't shoot. But if there was a person in front of the turret and the person was Kearney, then it would shoot. Okay? So the last one on the T table is wrong. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Don't talk and write at the same time, huh? There we go. Thank you for that. So, yeah, if there is a person in front of me and that person is Kearney, then shoot the ping pong ball. Okay? And so if there's nobody in front of you, won't shoot. If the person in front of you is not Kearney, won't shoot. So only if both sides of the and are true, then it shoots. Okay? So, yeah, false, true is absolutely wrong. Let me drink some coffee to that. Thank you for catching that error. So, yeah, good job. I was just testing you guys. Yeah. Make sure you're paying attention. All right, I'm kidding. No, that was just a typo. All right. So for or, either side can be true for the output to be true. So the difference between and or, and we go through every possibility of true and false. This time I will do it correctly and not try talking at the same time. There we go. For or, like if we did this but with an or instead of an and, then either if somebody's in front of me or the person is Kearney, like the image recognition software says Kearney's there, then it will shoot. And so in this case, the student walks in through the front door. They get unpleasantly surprised as the ping pong turret blasts them. Okay, so you got to be real careful. Yeah, in computer science, you got to be real careful when you use your ands, when you use your ors. So do you shoot? You know, yes. Okay, if it's both me and there's a person, shoot. If there's a person that's not me, shoot. If they see my face anywhere, shoot. Although I don't know how they can see my face, that there being a person there. Maybe I should have thought of a better example. Either way, and then if there's nobody there and there's no Kearney, then it does not shoot. So basically, this is the big one that they would need to worry about, which is that it would now shoot at them as well as shooting at me if you put in an or instead of an and. So you have to be very careful to make sure that your logic is correct. Every time you write a program, you have to make sure you want an and when there's an and an or when there's an or. Okay. What if it was an X with a circle, like XOR, whatever, that kind of thing? Then yeah. So this is inclusive or is another way of putting this. Or is inclusive, which means either or both. Then there's something called XOR, which is called exclusive or. And the really confusing thing is, in English, we use or for both of those. Okay? And so for XOR, one or the other is true, but not both. So, if it was XOR, the top line here would be false. In other words, if you wrote the program this way, if there's a person in front of me, XOR the person is Kearney, then it will not fire if I'm in front of it, because both are true. And for a better example of how this would be used in real life, because this is obviously not how you would program a turret. Let's just put it back on to or for now. When your mom asks you, do you want to get pizza or sushi for dinner, you can't answer yes. I mean, you can, and logicians do this because they think it's funny. But like when somebody asks you two mutually exclusive options, we say or, right? But we mean XOR. Okay, right? Like either you clean your room or you get in big trouble. You know, you'd be upset if you cleaned your room and your parents still punished you. You know what I mean? Like, but no, you said either clean your room or I get in trouble. You can't punish me. I'm a logician. Or I meant inclusive or, not exclusive. Right? Like you'd be quite upset, because in English we use the word or for both, and this is a famous trap for English speakers. Okay. Could you use a solid color? Sure, no problem. Right. So switch that over to a solid color. There we go. True, true. That is too thick a line. True, true, false, false, true, false, false, true, 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 false. So, in English, though, spoken English actually differentiates between OR and XOR. Written English doesn't, and that makes it even more interesting to me, because in spoken English we stress the OR. So we will say, either you go to your room or you get big trouble. Do you want ice cream or pizza for dinner? And we put a stress on it, and when you stress it, it means XOR. Okay? And with XOR, you cannot have both. If this was XOR and you try doing the whole, yeah, I want both pizza and ice cream, then your mom's like, no. Yeah. This is XOR, you can't have both. For XOR, you can have one or the other, but not both. Okay? So, yeah. So by default, if you see me write OR on a quiz or anything like that, it means inclusive OR. Either one or the other or both can be true. The output's true. But if, however, I write XOR, and I'll write it like this, and there's different ways of writing it in logic, which annoys me. You can also use the caret symbol, which looks like exponentiation to most people, is also XOR. So if it's XOR, then it means one or the other, but not both, to be true. Okay, so yeah, and good. It should hurt your brain a little bit. And then finally, we got not. Okay, so not, and so true becomes false, and false becomes true, and that's the whole thing to not. So, okay. So if I wrote a program saying, if person in front and person is not Kearney, play welcome sound, right? And so this is how a person would write a program. Is this easier to read or not? By water. Are you able to read this better? I've always found the rainbow colors to be festive and cheerful. But, okay. If a person in front and a person is not Kearney, then play the welcome sound. And so this is an example of, like a computer program. And we use these things and or and not all the time. These are the three most basic commands. There's other ones, but with these three you can do anything. Okay? So a student comes in through the door, welcome to the class. Student comes in through the door, welcome to the class. Kearney walks into the door, good. Because they would still have this program up here. Oh, we need to fix this bug here. If there's a person in front of me and the person is Kearney, then shoot. Okay. So there we go. And so you can have multiple rules like this programmed into a turret or a AI My Little Pony or something. I don't know. So what if it was so if it was or, then would it say welcome to both? Yeah. So if it said or, right? If it said or, then it would say hi to me as well, right? Okay. So the two inputs are, you've got like to put this in practical terms, there's two different sensors on this sentry gun. The first is a ultrasound sensor that has a range of about 2 meters. And so this thing didn't have the ability to shoot long distance. It's not a very practical sentry gun, but it had ultrasound on it, and it would activate. It would return true. So this part here, if person in front, what I'm writing English right now, but what that is in code is there would be a function call to a function that would return if the ultrasound had picked up somebody within a cone in front of the sentry gun within about 2 meters, about 6 feet. Okay, and so every tick, the thing's gonna be like, is there somebody in front of me? Is there somebody in front of me? Is there somebody in front of me? And if you wrote it this way with an or, then if the ultrasound picked up anything, it would say like, welcome to the class, right? Even if it was me, right? And then the second part here is a input from CImage, not CImage, sorry, OpenCV, which is an image recognition software, and so that's hooked up to a camera. Okay, if you've ever wanted to do like, that's funny. If you ever wanted to learn how to program a computer and tell if something's a cat or a dog, we use OpenCV for it. That was a summer project that was issued to a couple of students at MIT back in the 50s or 60s, something like that. And they just thought they could do it over a summer. Can you tell if a picture contains a cat or a dog? And then it wasn't solved for 50 years. So, yeah, and so basically this part here would be, there's a camera, like the camera I have here, just watching, and it has OpenCV. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It has like a it's kind of like this. Puts a little square on you. Yeah. So you train the OpenCV on a person's face, and then it will tag the person. It looks, there's a little bit, yeah, it looks more like this, right? So it puts a little box around them and says who it is. Yeah, a little terrifying there. All right, so you have two inputs coming in. One is ultrasound, the other is OpenCV. And OpenCV can actually activate even if there's nothing there. That's why you need two different inputs. Because sometimes we'll be like, yeah, I see a face. I see a face in the wall, and there's nothing there. So you definitely want to have the backup there. It's called pareidolia or something like that. It's like humans do this too, right? Like we'll see faces and things that aren't faces. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool tree. Yeah. So you want to have both, okay? And so when you program your code, you want to make sure you're using and when you're supposed to be using and, like this. If there is a person in front of me, in other words, the ultrasound sensor has detected a person within 2 meters, and OpenCV has said, yeah, that person there is not Kearney, then play Welcome to the Class. Okay. So still see faces on cars, yeah, like the headlights and the grill and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So by combining and, or, and not in different clever ways, you can basically do anything. The world's most complicated AIs, like the self-driving cars from Tesla, are just combinations of ifs, ands, ors, ands, and nots. That's it. All AI is a bunch of these things. That's it. Okay. So that's truth tables. So any questions about this? I still see faces in cars. Okay, so let's go to the quiz. One person has done the X credit. And I'm working slowly through the essays. I've gotten 8 of them done so far. I need to get cracking on that. We are getting a grader, so the grader will help quite a good amount. All right. There we go. So this is the quiz that I showed you guys, the questions too. Let's see how you did. Last time it averaged to 50. This time we averaged to 60. That's good. Getting better on it. I guess we'll do another one today. All right. So I gave you 2 clues. The first clue was that well, first I just showed you the questions. Second clue I gave you was that all 3 of them have the same answer. Or no, I just told you they don't all have to have different answers. So, in fact, all 3 of these did have the same answer. All 3 of these are sound arguments. So, all of you that put in something else probably did so by second guessing yourself or something. I don't know. Okay, so here we go. All humans are mammals. That's true. All humans are chordates. That's also true. Some chordates are mammals. The logic does follow on that, assuming that there is at least one human. So, people who said that it is valid but not sound, what you are saying is that a human exists that is not a mammal, and that a human exists that is not a chordate. And again, I don't do like trick questions. You know, I'm not like, my computer's name is human and my computer's not a mammal. You know, like I don't do that. You know, it's yeah, everything's supposed to be pretty straightforward. Like you don't need to you know, well, my grandpappy lost his spine in the war. You know, like he's not a chordate anymore. No, you're still a chordate even if you know, had your spine ripped out. You know. I also felt I was wrong because all of them wouldn't be the same answer, right? I told you guys, like, it's I don't do that. I don't do the whole, well, there's 3 questions, so there must be one of each. Yeah. Air Buddy and Air Bud were different dogs. Air Buddy was the name of the real life dog that the movie Air Bud was based on. Okay. So, all animals are humans, true. All animals are chordates, true. Some chordates are animals. And so those of you that said invalid said that you cannot reason from this to this. But think about it, right? Like, if all humans, if everybody in one group are in another group, and everybody in that group are in another group, a third group, then even though not everybody in that third group is a human, right? Not all chordates are humans. Some of them are humans, right? If there's at least one human, right? Think about it. Like, all humans are chordates, but not all chordates are humans, right? Like, there's monkeys and fish and stuff like that, right? There's plenty of chordates that are not humans. But as long as one human exists, which, you know, I put it in here. Sometimes you'll see this written as the third premise. Aristotle just assumed that there would be at least one thing in the group that he was talking about. Yeah. As long as one human exists, then one human exists, and it's a chordate. And because there's a human in the group of chordates, that's a mammal. So some chordates are mammals. It's true. Not all of them. Some. I'm not going to trick you. I'm going to do what you think I'd obviously not do. I warned you. I warned you. I sound like Al Gore in Inconvenient Truth. All right. Is this argument invalid, valid but not sound, or sound and valid? So, yeah, all right. You guys did well on this one. A lot of people, I don't know. Okay. So for this one, let's go through it. All humans are mammals. Still true. No mammals have feathers. Also true. Feathers are only found on birds. Birds are not mammals. Okay. So those of you that said it's valid, you're either claiming, if you said valid but not sound, you must be trying to tell me that there are humans that exist that are not mammals, or you're trying to tell me that some mammals grow feathers. So I won't trick you unless. Okay, so yeah, it's not true. It's honestly not a trick question. Like, no mammals have feathers, and you can look it up if you want, if you don't believe me. Okay, so therefore no humans have feathers. Yeah, and we know that to be true because humans are mammals and no mammals have feathers. So it would be impossible for a human to have feathers without breaking the rules of logic. So to send invalid. So the logic works. All x are y, no y or z, therefore no x is z. Yeah. I'm just curious which one of these that the people that put down valid, like, are you trying to claim that there are humans that exist that aren't mammals? Or are you trying to claim that mammals have feathers? Because when you put this down, that's what you're telling me. Okay. Okay. If x or y, y is not z, therefore x is not z. Yeah. Okay, and then this was my favorite one to write because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie Air Bud, but there's a scene where like the dog's trying to play basketball and they're like, stop, you can't allow a dog onto the basketball court, and the ref's like, I looked at the rules, I don't see anything in the rules that says the dog can't play basketball. I'm gonna allow it, so alright, so humans oh, I see. Yeah. Humans are the only animals who have ever served in Congress. Yeah, if you're saying valid, then you're going to try and claim that lizard people exist or something. Yeah, that's a typo on my part. I'll give everybody a free point, I guess. Although most of you got it. Yeah, everybody. I changed this because I wanted to talk about real life, but I didn't change the conclusion. Yeah, so this is actually an invalid argument, technically. Because here I said Air Buddy was a golden retriever, and I changed it to Air Bud. Yeah, but I'll grant all of you a free point on this one. So, yeah, the form of this argument is actually invalid because I said Air Bud here instead of Air Buddy here. Although, yeah, it's a nickname for the same person, but yeah, that's fair. I put invalid. Yeah. I googled the first premise and it said there's some dogs that become mayors. Yeah, there's people that have elected cats to be mayors and things like that. But to the best of my knowledge, no animal has ever served in the U.S. Congress. The best of my knowledge. If you have any evidence otherwise, let me know. But to the best of my knowledge, we've never elected a monkey into Congress or something like this. So please post your evidence that there was. I don't even know what I put because your Wi-Fi died. Rip. Let's go free points. Yeah. I'm already giving you the free point on this one, so that's fine. Air Buddy was a golden retriever. That is true. So Air Buddy was the real life dog that played basketball. He would try biting it, and because it was slippery from his, they would sometimes put oil on it, but sometimes just from his saliva, and then it would fly out of his mouth, and so they taught him to play basketball. So real life dog. I originally had it as Air Bud, but Air Bud's a fictional character, and so I didn't want to get into fiction versus reality because that's kind of a weird thing. So yeah, originally I wrote Air Bud, and then I changed this to Air Buddy because that was the real life dog. So conclusion: Air Buddy never served in Congress. That is also sound. Okay, that is true. That is true. The logic works. No X are Y. This person is an X. Therefore, X is not Y. The logic is completely valid on that. Okay. So, dog mayors of America. Yeah, but that's not Congress. That's not Congress. Okay. Nice Vince McMahon meme. There we go. Okay, so I will do another one of these, and we will continue doing these until the score crosses some imaginary threshold in my head where I feel like you guys have it. That way, you'll do fine on the midterm. Hopefully. All right, so let's talk about concussions because I speculated in class. Like I told you guys, like I'm not a, I've done absolutely no research on this. And so I ended up pulling up a couple of Sci-Hub epidemic. Pay no attention to me using Sci-Hub. But I was not going to pay $200 for this article. I'm sorry. Piracy. So, yeah, Sci-Hub is a piracy website where you can download academic articles for free without paying the $200 that the journal would charge you for this. I am not that curious about concussion rates. Sorry. I'm not $200 curious, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, yeah, pay no attention to the... Let's just screenshot this. There we go. Just close that out. There we go. Okay, there we go. Pay no attention. Okay, so we found the highest concussion incidences in rugby match play. That means when they're actually playing a real match. And the lowest concussion rate in men's football during training when they're doing practices. Okay? Overall, concussions and head injuries were rare in training compared to when you're in an actual match. Female players actually have increased risk of concussion. And nobody knows why. Because women sports have much less body-to-body, core-to-core contact, right? And so soccer, for example, female players get more concussions than male players and things like that. And people don't really know why. So, so this study showed rugby as the highest rate of concussion. And then this one, which is a ongoing monitoring concussion rates and distributions, is important. Examinations of high school sport-related concussions. They studied 20 high school sports. What they found, or is this the same one? Let's see here. No, yeah, this one. They found football is the worst at concussions. So boys football, concussion rate of 10 per, it's like training hours or something like that. Then all the other ones are basically down here. And so one study found that football had the lowest concussion rate, at least in training, not in match play. And this one showed football had the highest rate. So, yeah. And rugby was down here with the other ones. So, why did I show that to you? Well, first of all, anytime I make an unsubstantiated claim like that, for one thing, I will mention to you guys, I don't know the answer to this. I'm just gonna, I haven't heard of any concussions coming out of rugby, but I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I haven't studied it. And then whenever I say that, there's always something in the back of my mind like, let's look that up. Let's try to figure out, what the concussion rates are in rugby, because I don't know. I had a friend, his father played rugby back in the day. I haven't seen him. Brian Amon, his name was. If you're out there, contact me, dude. I miss you. You're a cool dude. His dad did it, and I haven't known anyone since then that does rugby. So, I don't have any personal experience with it either. And so there's just part of me that's like, all right, let's find out. You're making a recording. Let's find out what the incidence rate of concussion is. And so, I digged around and found there's very little evidence actually on rugby, because that one study that showed rugby had the highest concussion rate, that was a giant meta-analysis. And so a meta-analysis is, let me show you guys how peer review works. This is kind of important. So what happens is that a person writes a paper. So you got like some professor usually, and they write a paper, and they submit it to like a journal or something like that, or a conference. Okay. And then other professors and if you're like, wait, how can you have contradictory information in science? Well, yeah, let's explain that. So typically you have 3 professors take part in peer review. Okay. And so they do what's called peer review. Peer review. And they give the paper a grade, A+, B, F, and that's very common actually. This person found something in the paper that he's like, that's bad. And then these people, before this person doesn't see anything. They submit it to the journal, and then these people talk, and then there's going to be usually a lead person, and he gets the grades, and then they discuss amongst themselves, and the lead is like, hey, this person gave it an F, you gave it an A+. We need to figure out what's going on here. And this person's like, oh my gosh, you're right. That's a terrible thing they did. They didn't even account for this and this and this. Yeah, that thing's completely wrong. This person changes their grade to an F. This person's like, yeah, you're absolutely right, F. And then the lead will produce what's called a meta review. Meta review, F, thumbs down, and then that gets sent back to the person here, and it doesn't get published. Okay? So you submit a paper, and 3 of your peers, people that are, somewhat knowledgeable on the subject, will talk about it and engage in peer review. And the internal discussion is kept secret. All of these people, their names are oftentimes secret. It's not always, but the peer review that I do, the name is secret. The people doing the reviewing is secret. I'm reviewer 2. I'm reviewer 1. I'm reviewer 3. And we just have a conversation as reviewer 1, 2, and 3. And thank you for being my model, Kearney. That's amazing. Thank you. I love it. Set as my desktop background. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, look at that. Okay. I'm going to see if my wife can figure out who that is. I'm going to save that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. All right. Or the other option is the other option is this person's like, oh no, that thing that you said that was really bad, they addressed it, and then reviewer number 3 goes, oh yeah, shoot, you're right. Okay, I'm going to change mine to A+ too. Oh yeah, good point. And then the meta review is A+, and then that goes back to the journal, and then the journal's like, okay, I'll accept it. And then it gets published. Submit. So you can submit a paper. You can submit a paper for publication. And then the peer review process is quite brutal. Like, I've gotten feedback on my papers that, they're not rude. Like they typically go out of their way to like be polite about it. But like they're like, yeah, we don't like this and this and this, and why didn't you mention this paper, and you should have talked about this, and that needs to connect to this more. Like they give pretty good feedback on it. Yeah. But if they like it, then it gets published. Okay? Actually, if they like it, there's a possibility it doesn't get published anyway, because there's a limit on how many papers can get published, so they get ordered, and the top ones get published. But yeah, it's a bit of a trivial detail. So you write a paper, you submit it to a journal, it gets published, and then yay. Okay. You get to put this on your CV. It goes onto your CV, your curriculum vitae, which is your resume, your academic resume, which is a list of all the papers you published. For example, I was looking up an academic the other day, and yeah, this guy here. Just randomly, I've never met the guy, I never heard of him before in my life. And you can see here on his website, he has a link called CV, Curriculum Vitae. It's the curriculum of life. Okay, it's at Dartmouth. And has the place where his last couple positions. He was at Harvard, Keio University. He was Mitsui Professor of Japanese Studies, MIT, Poli-Sci. Like, pretty impressive CV, right? Like, if he was applying to get a job at our community college, I'd probably be like, yeah, let's hire this dude. Yale, education, Keio, Yale, MIT. He graduated from MIT and worked at MIT. Oh, as a visiting professor. Yeah, that makes sense. So he graduated from MIT with a PhD, got a job in Singapore. It's cool. And he's kind of traveled around since then. So, and then he's got his books and then his articles. And so you just go through here, and these are all the different articles on different topics, and articles in Japanese, other publications, media, awards and fellowships, recent grants that he's gotten, courses taught, professional services, does R, Stata, LaTeX, rather. Native speaker of Japanese, fluent in English. So this is like a resume for academics. And typically when you publish a paper, yay, it goes onto your CV. And academics will build up these long and comprehensive CVs, and that's the lifeblood of academia, is publishing papers. And this guy's a walking perfect resume. Yeah, I just discovered that guy quite randomly. And it's like, yeah, that's how you do a CV, folks. That's how you do a CV. Like, I would definitely hire that guy. So that is the peer review process. So it's been published, right? And so that's sort of the base criteria in academia for believing something. Like if somebody has published a paper on concussions and it's been submitted to a journal on concussion studies, a reputable journal, right? It's got to be a good journal. If it's a garbage journal, it's not really worth anything. But if it goes to like Nature, or something like that, which is one of the top tier journals, then if it gets published in it, we're like, all right, I'm inclined to believe you. Now, here's the kicker, is that we had one guy go through that with the concussion paper, and his conclusion was rugby, scary, yo. That was his conclusion. Okay? Then we have another prof over here who went through the same process, writing a paper, submitting it to a journal, getting it published, and rugby, safe. Football, scary. Okay? So this is where science gets really interesting, right? So you got one paper saying rugby is the most dangerous sport for concussions, and then we have another saying football is by far and away the most dangerous. And they're saying, no, football is the safest. At least football in training is the safest. And then football in match play, when you're actually in an actual competition, is average, if you dig into the data on it. Have you ever published anything, Kearney? Sure. Yeah. So it's hard, though, and it's work, I was going to write a paper. I've submitted like the last couple of years, but not this year because I was lazy. So, yeah, legitimately. I was looking at that deadline. It was like later in the week, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I had a lot of stuff going on that week, and I was like, it's fine. It was like the first week of school or something. And there's a lot of stuff that happened the first week of school. Okay, so what happens if you have one paper saying one thing and one paper saying another thing is that you then do what's called a meta-analysis. So this is another professor, which is separate from the other ones. And that professor does what's called a meta-analysis. Analysis. Okay. And then they put together a new paper that combines all the other papers, that it grades them. So paper 1, I'm going to give you an A for reliability. Paper 2, I'm going to give you a C for reliability. So what they do is they go through and they score all the papers based on how there's different criteria they use for like how good the paper was, sample size, like how many people were in the study, was their methodology flawed, that kind of stuff. And so they don't just use 2 papers, they'll use like sometimes I've seen meta reviews with 1,500 papers in it, right? More often it's more like 30-ish or so, but it depends. It just depends on the meta review. And they go through and they score all of them based on how good they were, and then they submit that to a journal, and then that goes to a journal, and that gets peer reviewed, and that gets published. Yay. And so in science, a meta review is oftentimes kind of the gold standard, because you can have different studies that have different sources, right? Like the people on this one might be in Australia, and maybe in Australia people play rugby more aggressively, right? It can happen, right? There are cultural differences in humans, and that's something that some people refuse to acknowledge, but like, it's true. Culture does have, there's the cultural influences are real, Not many people in Fresno eat boiled peanuts. A lot of people in the South do. Like, there's just regional differences in diet and exercise and activities and stuff like that. And if this was studying Australian people and this was studying American people, then Americans might just be less aggressive at rugby, right? And so the meta review is sort of the gold standard in science, where especially if you can find like 1,500 papers and you combine all of them together and you weight the more reliable ones the most, then this is kind of the gold standard. This is yay. Hooray, that's what people believe in science. Trouble. This paper here was a meta review. The one that said rugby was scary. It was a meta review. They combined a lot of different sources together and determined that rugby was the scariest. Digging into it, they only had a single paper for rugby. So, they said it was good quality, but it was only one study. All the other ones were combining multiple sources for soccer and football and all the other things. For rugby, they could only find a single study. And so, even though it appears to be a meta review, is it really when you're just taking the results of one study and just copy pasting it in? I don't know. So, anyway. So do you guys understand how academia works now? That's kind of the upshot of like how professors do their thing. Everybody submits to journals, they do peer review, they get published, and then the published things kind of all get combined together into a meta review. And then sometimes that meta review gets combined into other meta reviews, and you can have like a tier two meta review, and that's sort of like this thing here is kind of like scientific consensus on something. Like when you hear scientists agree that football causes concussions, that's usually the result of a meta review, a published peer-reviewed meta review. This is where I watched my parents die, Raphael. Not real tragedy, unfollowed, blocked ratio. What a crazy system. Yeah, it's the best system we've come up with so far. And it's got its issues, which we'll talk more about later in the semester. But I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of this. And so when I was trying to figure out if rugby causes concussions, it's like I'm digging through all these references, and a lot of journals are paywalled. So like if you wanted to get that meta review, it's like these things are somewhere between $30 and $200, right? If you pay the journal for them. And I'm like, I'm just curious. I just want to know so I can tell my CSI 1 students if rugby is dangerous or not. You know what I mean? So, I hate ratioing. Yeah. So, anyhow, yeah. So, Sci-Hub is a piracy website that has copies of scientific papers, which I don't know if that's ethical or not, but there you go. I don't pirate software. The last time I pirated software, because we still have that piracy discussion, right? The last time I pirated software is for a product called MATLAB, which is somewhere on the order of like $3,000. It depends on how many packages you buy. And the reason why I pirated it was because I paid my own money that could be used for like buying dumb stuff for my computer. I spent my own money, my own hard-earned money, on MATLAB. And they send me a box in the mail. And the box was empty. It had a receipt in it. It had a manual in it. The packing list said, this contains the installation CDs and the manual. And I look at it. I shake the box. There's no installation CDs. I paid $3,000 for an empty box with a manual. And so I said, all right, I will break my tradition of not pirating software. I'm actually pretty good at purchasing software. And I'm going to pirate this because if I pay $3,000 for software, you can double check that you mailed me the damn CD. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, this isn't like, you know, some shareware product or something. It's $3,000. And I was kind of pissed at them. And technically, I owned it, right? So I don't even think it was illegal. I don't know. It was a while ago. Statute of limitations is expired, MATLAB. People don't sue me. But yeah, I technically had a license to it, and so I downloaded it and then used what I was legally allowed to use it for. But I was a little pissed at that. So $3,000 for air. Yeah. That sounds like one of those like influencer things. I'm gonna breathe into a box and mail it to you. Even a scalped RTX 30. Yeah, even if you get a scalped 3080, at least they send it to you. They don't send you an empty box, you know. Yeah, I think you guys would have been mad too. I don't know if you guys would pirated it. Perhaps you're more ethical than me, but I felt like I've given them the money, right? Like I have a, you know, I give them money. They give me the right to use the software. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on that. So, okay. Currently got the bag of chips at 70% air. Yeah. So, anyway, that's class for today. Again, what we talked about today was the truth tables, and this is really important for y'all to learn. With OR, especially, I saw somebody on the help center saying, "I don't understand why these are true. If one or the other is true with an OR, the output's true." The only bit that gets tricky is that top line there, and you have to think about, is this inclusive or is it exclusive OR? So, in English, like in logic, if we say OR, it means inclusive, okay? But in English, if we stress it, you know, do you want to take Japanese or Spanish? That means you're going to take one or the other, but not both, right? It's a very subtle difference that can get you sometimes. Our assignment is another quiz, yeah. So I'm going to give you another valid invalid sound quiz, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. Okay. So, yeah. And again, there's no requirement. They're all different or they're all the same. Take each one individually. You'll be fine. All right. So that's it for today. Thanks for coming out, guys. Hanging out, listening to me complain about an empty box of air. I do actually feel kind of justified in complaining about. Is that extra credit still available? I think so. Yeah, I think it's due on don't quote me. It's on Canvas. But yeah, it's still up. So go ahead and or is it? I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Peace out.